A secret message just crossed the Pacific Ocean. It landed on a desk in Ottawa, with an offer so bold it could reshape North America's entire trade strategy. China's ambassador sent what insiders are calling the Golden Deal. Remove your tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, and we'll remove every single tariff on Canadian agriculture. $5 billion in frozen exports unlocked overnight. No phase-in period. No negotiations. Just one decision that could save Canada's dying farmlands or destroy its alliance with the United States. And Prime Minister Mark Carney has weeks, maybe days, to choose. This is the Canada-China trade deal that nobody saw coming, and it's forcing Canada to answer a question it's been avoiding for years. Are we America's loyal partner or an independent nation that acts in its own interest? Because right now, Canada can't be both. Here's how the Canada-China trade deal became the most explosive story in North American politics. When Trump returned to the White House, he immediately slapped a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs. Canada, trying to stay aligned with Washington, copied the move almost instantly. But here's the problem. Canada doesn't even have a major EV industry to protect. We followed America's lead out of solidarity, not strategy. And Beijing noticed. Within weeks, China retaliated with crushing tariffs on Canadian agriculture, 75.8% on raw canola, 100% on canola oil and meal, massive penalties on pork and seafood. The impact was instant and devastating. Canada's prairie provinces, Saskatchewan and Manitoba, saw their biggest export market disappear overnight. Silos filled with unsold grain. Processing plants went idle. Farmers who depended on Chinese buyers suddenly had nowhere to sell. By late summer, Saskatchewan's exports to China had collapsed by 76%. Manitoba's pork industry lost $19 million. Small towns across the prairies started shutting down. That's when China made its move with this Canada-China trade deal offer. Lift your EV tariff and we'll lift all agricultural tariffs immediately. For Western Canada, this sounds like a miracle. The premiers of Saskatchewan and Manitoba are begging Ottawa to accept. They're saying, let us sell again, let our farmers survive. They estimate that reopening the Chinese market could pour billions back into rural communities within months. Trains would roll again, supply chains would restart, entire towns would come back to life. But the Canada-China trade deal isn't just about canola and cars. It's about power. Because if Canada accepts, it breaks with the United States on a major policy issue for the first time in decades, and Trump won't take that lightly. Washington has made it clear that any country doing business with China on terms America disapproves of will face consequences. Canada is already dealing with Trump's threats over steel, aluminum, and auto parts. Accepting this Canada-China trade deal could trigger a full trade war with our largest trading partner. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is leading the opposition. He's calling the deal economic suicide. Ford argues that lifting the EV tariff would flood Canadian markets with cheap Chinese electric vehicles from companies like BYD and Geely. These aren't low-quality cars anymore. They're sleek, advanced, and cheaper than anything North American factories can produce. Ontario's auto industry, centered in Windsor and Oshawa, supports tens of thousands of unionized jobs. Losing those jobs would devastate Ontario's economy and destroy Carney's political future. So Carney is trapped in the middle of this Canada-China trade deal. Choose the West and rescue farmers, but anger Ontario and Washington. Choose Ontario and protect the auto sector, but watch the prairies collapse. Either way, someone loses big, and that's exactly what China is counting on. Beijing isn't offering this Canada-China trade deal out of kindness. It's a strategic wedge designed to split Canada from the United States and expose the cracks inside North America's trade bloc. Here's what makes this even more interesting. While Canada's farmers are suffering, America's farmers are getting crushed. China used to buy nearly half of all U.S. soybean exports, worth over $12 billion in 2024. But by summer 2025, Chinese orders dropped to zero, not one bushel. Brazil swooped in and took 3/4 of China's soybean market. American farmers across Iowa, Illinois, and Nebraska are watching their crops rot in storage. The USDA estimates U.S. agriculture is losing $9 billion a year because of the trade war Trump started. China's pivot away from American agriculture creates a massive opportunity for Canada. Beijing needs reliable food suppliers that aren't dependent on Washington's political whims. Canada has always been seen as a stable, rules-based trading partner. If Carney accepts this Canada-China trade deal, Canadian farmers could replace American farmers as China's primary agricultural supplier. That's a generational shift in global trade. But it requires defying Trump. And that's the real test. For decades, Canada's foreign policy has been shaped by one principle: stay close to America, NAFTA, USMCA, military alliances, intelligence sharing. Everything has been built on the assumption that Canada's future is tied to the United States. This Canada-China trade deal is asking Canada to rewrite that assumption, to choose its own economic survival over automatic alignment with Washington. Some analysts are calling it the Green Trade Pact. Green energy technology, Chinese EVs, traded for green agriculture, Canadian canola. On paper, it's elegant. In practice, it's a bomb that could blow up 75 years of North American integration. So what happens next with the Canada-China trade deal? Carney has to decide soon. Every week of delay costs farmers millions, but accepting could cost Canada its relationship with Trump's America. If this story shocked you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This decision could come any day. Drop a comment. Should Canada take the deal or stay loyal to the U.S.? Let's debate.